This is the DAR Today podcast, and I'm your host, Brooke Bullmaster Stewart. Well, if April showers bring May flowers, what does a Mayflower bring? A Mayflower, I think a Mayflower might bring the ancestors to the Revolutionary War patriots that would be born about 120 years later. What do you think? Maybe not as funny as the classic joke, but I think DAR members will get it, maybe. But happy almost May Day. There's so many observances and holidays in the month of May. There's really almost too many to mention. We, of course, have fun events like the Kentucky Derby. And also, if you're a Star Wars fan, there's May the 4th, right? As in, May the 4th be with you. I think you get that, right? But there's also real holidays, like we have Cinco de Mayo, and also the very significant observance at the end of this month of Memorial Day. And we also find in the month of May that it is Military Appreciation Month. And with regard to supporting our military, have you ever read the National Defender newsletter? It's an incredible publication put out by our National Defense Committee with DAR. We'll have a link to the latest issue in our show notes, but we wanted to talk really quickly about a neat story that we saw in the most recent issue. And it's about a chapter member in Kansas in the John and Hattie Possum chapter there. And her name is Dee Clark, and her husband Roger. They often went to dine at a local restaurant where they would often talk to veterans that they meet there. Well, in befriending 86-year-old Wayne Keim, Dee discovered that Wayne had served 3 tours of duty, 2 in the Army in Korea and Germany, and then in the Navy in Vietnam. And during that time, he earned 5 medals for his service, but he never received them. Well, Dee was determined that it was past time that Keim received his medals. And with Mr. Keim's permission, she went about the task, filling out numerous forms, seeking out all of the necessary information. And she was successful, and they held a wonderful ceremony where Wayne told stories about his days in the service. And as Wayne said, when asked to give an interview to the TV crews covering the event, he said,
"When you come home from Vietnam, a lot of Americans didn't appreciate that. And that's what makes it nice when somebody says, thank you for your service. It means a lot to me, personally."
Well, needless to say, this act of caring and thoughtfulness displayed by chapter member Dee Clark was so appreciated by Wayne, and since then, several veterans and families have asked Dee for her assistance in securing their loved ones' unreceived medals. Well, for the sake of time, we've cut this story short today, but it's a wonderful one, and we would highly encourage you to go to that National Defender and read the whole story there. But in our episode today, we'll have an interview with Susan Metzger, who is the Curator General for our society, as we kick off this month talking all about the DAR Museum, and with lots of segments about that. So today we'll also have a supplemental segment about certain artifacts, special artifacts, in our DAR Museum. It's so impressive what our museum has. It's pretty incredible. So with all there is in this episode, let's jump right into that interview with Susan Metzger. And as always, hey, thank you so much for being here today with us. Well, Susan Metzger, thank you so much for being here with us today. Of course, you currently serve as the Curator General for the Wright administration. Will you tell us a little bit about that position?
Sure, I'd be glad to, and thanks for the opportunity to participate in the podcast with you. I have the opportunity to work with a really talented staff here in our DAR headquarters, overseeing the management and collections of all of our items, not only those items that are on display in our exhibitions, but those that we maintain in our storage as well. So more than 30,000 items, and at any given time, 30% of those are on display for visitors to come and enjoy. Our museum is open to all of our members and also to the general public, and it's a free museum, which is a great asset here in DC. And many people think that our museum is just the primary main exhibition, but it also extends to our period rooms and our Yoakum Gallery and across spaces in all of Memorial Continental Hall.
Tell us about your time in DAR. How long have you been a member?
So I have been a member since 2005. And so I guess now it's coming up on almost 20 years, which is hard to believe. The time has really flown by. But I joined DAR when I first moved to Kansas. And at that time, I was really new to the area. I was looking for an activity to help me stay connected to my family, which lived here on the East Coast. And so I thought, I'll just try this new hobby called genealogy. And it just really snowballed. So I found the lineage back to somebody that served in the American Revolution. And I thought, well, I should go ahead and document that for my family. And then once I did that, I thought, well, now that I'm a member, I should go to a chapter meeting. And then if I'm at a chapter meeting, I should volunteer for an activity. And then just like DAR, it just happens. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in these really great positions.
Sounds like if you give a mouse a cookie.
Yes, indeed.
Sounds a lot
indeed.
like that
I ate the cookie.
He's going to want milk. He's going to want this.
Yes.
Now, was there anybody that kind of came alongside you and mentored you in a way?
I have several great mentors in DAR, and they really, first, I became acquainted with them my very first state meeting that I went to, and was just in awe of all the women around me, but you're so intimidated, thinking, where's my place? What can I possibly do? And so I started out paging. Made a great network of friends paging, but it was through that I had a couple mentors in particular, Margaret Bates and Pat Carpenter and Mary Fresh, saw something in me, a skill or an asset, and asked me to take on some new leadership positions and activities. And I think if it weren't for them, I'm not sure I would have had the confidence to get started in these positions.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Sure. So my family includes my sister. I just have one sister. She lives in the Washington, D.C. area. She's married with my favorite people on the planet, my niece and nephew. So my niece lives with me in Kansas, and my nephew lives here in Virginia. And both of our parents have recently passed, but my dad is the person that my lineage extends through to the American Revolution. And he was always really, really proud of that. So we were military brats. My dad was in the Army, so we moved all around, and then he retired in the Northern Virginia area. My mother is originally from Boston and maintained that Boston accent well after she moved out of Massachusetts. So,
how about for you? What would an hour well spent look like for you?
Sure. So something that I'm keenly interested in is something called Gallup Strengths. And so Gallup Strengths, everybody has top strengths that really motivate their behavior and excel, what makes them excel. So one of my top Gallup strengths is called Achiever, which usually means that I need to be busy all the time to be comfortable and happy. So that an hour well spent for me is something that is highly productive. I don't enjoy relaxing with a single activity. So if I have an hour where I can knock a bunch of things off of my to-do list, that is an hour well spent.
That's exciting to hear. Is there one thing that you love to knock off your to-do list more than others, or is it just in general?
Just in general. I think it's the volume more than the quality.
So is there anything coming up for the Office of the Curator General that you are looking forward to?
Sure. Well, as Curator General, you always get excited when we have a new exhibition opening, which just happened with Sewn in America, or we get a new great item. So there's always these daily great things that happen in the Office of Curator General. But something I'm particularly excited about, because it is so important to our museum, is we're going through our reaccreditation process. This happens every 10 years, and our DAR Museum maintains that standard since the 1970s continuously. It's a really big feather in our cap that takes a lot of work. And so right now that work looks like things like updating our collections management policy and getting even external reviewers to look at our policies and provide that critique that the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis to maintain our collections, to ensure that new items come in, meet our standards for what we want to collect and interpret, are maintained. To me, that's really exciting, and exciting to be a part of that real professionalism behind our museum.
Right? It's not just rooms, right? It's every piece inside these rooms is part of that museum.
Absolutely.
So I hope that members notice that when they come, maybe for Continental Congress or for vacation, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of the behind the scenes that you get to experience as Curator General. Truly, like you said, every single item, we sit down, we talk about its provenance, we talk about its historical connection and relevance, and then we talk about whether it actually meets the mission of the museum's purpose before anything is ever brought into our collection. Whether it costs $1 or $10,000, the same critical review happens.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here today, Susan.
Thank you.
Appreciate getting to know you better.
I appreciate it.
The DAR Museum, open to DAR members and the public at no charge, is a world-class institution specializing in pre-industrial revolution decorative and fine arts. Accredited by the American Alliance of Museums, the museum's collection consists of a dizzying 30,000 historical objects. Textile collections alone display an array of diversity, including costumes, footwear, flags, various categories of samplers and needlework, quilts, and much more. Documented provenance for each item lends historical credibility and, of course, sparks interest. For example, a striking red on white appliqued princess feather quilt with echo hand quilting at 8 to 9 inches per stitch and dating to between 1840 and 1869 was stitched by Pennsylvanian Dorothea Henrietta Scharf Carl, born in 1844. Dorothea's parents are documented along with this item, as well as her husband David, whom she married in 1865. Her grandson came to be the owner of this object, as well as the donor. This is a time-consuming and detailed example of exquisite handwork and excellent preservation. In addition to aesthetically appealing appliqued quilts, women's handwork in the museum also sometimes gives voice to their political views, such is the case with a silk hexagon, diamond, and half-square triangle-pieced counterpane comprised of remnants of campaign ribbons in support of presidential candidate Henry Clay. Rebecca Lombard Williams, also of Pennsylvania, is believed to have created this work, which includes an additional ribbon reading abstinence and may reflect Rebecca's political and ethical views in 1844, a time frame some 70 years prior to women's suffrage. Another example of women's handiwork expressing powerful views prior to enjoying the right to suffrage is the Chandler Abolitionist Purse. This delightful silk drawstring bag features a transfer-printed image of a kneeling slave woman on one side and an abolitionist poem on the opposite side. The transfer image is believed to have been attributed to the artwork of Samuel Lynes, born in 1778 in England, yet the purse is believed to have been owned by Pennsylvania Quaker poet and essayist Elizabeth Margaret Chandler. It's possible that this item was gifted to Chandler by an organization titled Ladies' Society for the Relief of Negro Slaves, following the publication of the poem that earned her international renown called The Slave Ship. And flags are evocative symbols of powerful emotion and sentiment, and at least one in the museum's collection was donated by a DAR member. As treasured family heirlooms, the stories that accompany these are as valuable as the items themselves, if not more so. Within the museum's collection is a 13-star and 13-stripe flag donated by Dorothy Dufour Larkin, a member of the Middlebrook DAR chapter of Bound Brook, New Jersey, and dating to post-1796. The flag exhibits a unique arrangement of stars on the blue ground, reminding us that the 1777 flag resolution did not prescribe a specific star arrangement on flags, only that there must be 13, and as a result, many variations and designs can be discovered among early colonial-era flags. During the 18th century, Lynn, Massachusetts was considered the shoe capital of the world, and the craftsmanship of Abel Alley, a shop owner in Lynn, attests to the diversity of gender of maker and category diversity found within the museum's collection. Often when we think of textiles, we think of women, and true, the museum houses many applicable examples. However, a pair of flat-soled, pointed-toed heels with incisive decorative stripes dating to the 1790s and to the shoe capital of the world found here in America represents a rare and distinctive colonial-era treasure, attributed to a man. The museum is known for its extensively researched and documented exhibits available to members and the public, both in person and online, and women's fashion has been the focus of several. Perhaps some of the most exquisite items in this category of the collection include gowns attributed to past president generals, a black-ribbed silk afternoon dress with ostrich feathers and jet beaded trim worn by NSDAR's first President General Carolyn Scott Harrison, and a 1925 gauze peach flapper-style gown adorned with silk moire, metallic lace, and dozens of appliqued pearls and rhinestones worn by President General Laura H. Cook are true jewels of the collection. The DAR Museum's rich and diverse collection of exemplary objects of American craftsmanship is truly something to behold. Whether you can plan an in-person visit or peruse the collection online, there's something that will capture the attention of everyone. Careful documentation and detailed scholarship ensure a fascinating exploration of American history. You can support and share the museum's mission and collections in a myriad of ways, from securing a traveling trunk show or portable education program to becoming a correspondent or an on-site docent. Explore online or in person these exhibits and presentations, and our financial contributions aid in purchasing desired books or adopting objects which support care and expansion of collections. For members, this is your museum and truly a dazzling repository of our country's treasures. Well, we leave you today with this quote by William Faulkner. "We must be free not because we claim freedom, but because we practice it." Well, thanks for listening and be well, dear friends. Let's celebrate the stars and stripes forever, and remember, with all of your ancestors behind you, you are the result of the love of thousands. This podcast was written and produced by our incredible team of writers and editors, and we are, as always, so grateful for President General Pamela Edwards Rouse Wright and Historian General Suzanne Heskey for their constant guidance, and to Kansas daughters Susan Metzger and Dee Clark for being so generous with their time. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children. Members are all lineal descendants of those who supported the cause of independence in the Revolutionary War. For more information, please visit dar.org. This is the DAR Today podcast.